potential tropical cyclone veering away from Grenada.
The storm, yes, is 405 miles southeast of Grenada, and it is veering away from our mainland.
Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the National Report, I am Leslie Ann Johnson Cornwall. Grenada was on Monday preparing for the effects of a potential tropical cyclone, which officials have since said was starting to move away from the island. Schools were closed half day on Monday, a decision taken at an emergency meeting of the National Emergency Advisory Council. Minister with responsibility for disaster management, Senator Winston Garraway, reported Monday afternoon that the system was starting to move towards the south.
It is veering away from our mainland. It is moving towards the south. As a result of this, we know our colleagues, island Barbados and St. Vincent, are no longer under tropical storm warning because of the same moving away. Also, Venezuela and Aruba has now been placed under storm watch because the system, based on the path, it will continue to move towards the south, the mainland of South America.
However, disaster management officials are encouraging persons not to be complacent since the island could still experience conditions associated with the system. Some 7 to 10 inches of rainfall are expected as a result of the system.
But we are not yet out of the woods. Grenada still will be exposed to lots and lots of rain. And the rain is expected to be more to the south of the island. And we're asking our nationals, or people on the whole, to be prepared for lots of rain.
The NEAC, which has already met twice on Monday, is scheduled to convene again Monday night before appropriate announcements are made to the nation. As Grenada faces the 2017 June 1st to November 30th hurricane season head-on, preparedness is key. Do you have a plan for you and your family in the event of a disaster? Janelle Hamlet reminds us of what we should bear in mind.
During this hurricane season, it is important to know where your nearest hurricane shelters are. This year, we have 120 at our disposal. But as member of the Shelter Management Committee, Tonya Hyston shares, there are rules that govern the activities within these facilities.
The shelter manager is the chief head of the plant, and they are in charge of the plant. So we ask that occupants respect them and obey what their instructions are. We also remind occupants that at any time you can be called upon to assist in the running of the shelter, in doing whether it be catering meals and all of that. We must remind persons that no pets or domestic animals are allowed in shelters. We also remind persons coming into shelters that weapons and ammunitions, illegal drugs, all of that are prohibited from the shelters, and if they are found, the Royal Grenada Police Force will be informed and their laws and regulations will be enforced.
Whether at home or at a shelter, water and ample supplies of it is essential for food preparation and other day-to-day activities. Raul Gabriel, District Supervisor of Transmission and Distribution at Nawassa, gives some tips on its storage and treatment.
We emphasize storage and the treat water yourselves. In that, in the eventuality, you're not getting treated water from Nawassa, but you have storage, or you may have to get water from a river or so. You can use bleach.
Okay.
There's a measurement, I think 16 drops to a gallon.
Right.
Right. You can do that. You can boil the water. Iodine is also used, but it's not as effective as the bleach. What you would want to do, ensure that you use the regular bleach, not those with all the scents and so on.
Okay.
And added to that, we advise on storage. When you're storing water, you have to store it in clean covered containers.
Sorry.
We try to avoid using metal, because the chlorine in itself will just cause it to corrode.
Above all, it is of utmost importance to devise a family plan for before, during, and after a disaster. Community Program Officer Simeon Granger says it's not as daunting as it sounds.
It's really simple things that you put together. One of a list of persons that you can contact
Right.
You have where they can be contacted, when they can be contacted, who is to contact whom. So the list you have would have some responsibilities. Who does what in the family? If we have to leave the home, where do we go? Where do we pass to go there? How do we get from point A to point B? Do we know where our shelters are? Do we know our district disaster team, the members of the team, or the coordinator of the team? So if you need any information, you need to have things on your plan.
For the National Report, I am Janelle Hamlet.
Meanwhile, the Grenada electricity company Grenlec is urging customers to prepare for the potential of power outages, while also assuring that it is ready to respond to service problems that occur. The company is urging all to be mindful that the rain and wind may cause trees and branches to hit overhead lines, bringing wires down and leaving customers out of power. Grenlec is also warning people to stay away from downed lines, as they may be live, and report them by calling the number 237. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
The house was shaking. Then suddenly saw we hear bang, crack, and the roof had gone.
Man, I was so scared, I nearly wet myself.
Only those who have lived it can truly understand the devastating fury of a hurricane's wind.
The house across the road just get up and roll over.
Hurricane force wind. It's a hazard. Hazards. Take control. Reduce your loss. You can hurricane-proof your home. For example, make your roof more wind-resistant by using screws instead of nails in its construction. Find out more about hurricane force winds and other hazards at your local disaster office.
A message from the National Disaster Management Agency and SEDERA.
Business owners in Grenada are being encouraged to take early precautionary measures and plan ahead for the event of a disaster. They are being asked by the International Labour Organization, NADMA, and the Grenada Employers Federation, how disaster resilient is your business? We have a report from Rikisha St. Louis.
The workshop forms part of a broader EU-funded Caribbean Employers Federation implemented program throughout the region. The first in a series of 13 workshops was held in Grenada. It gave employers and business owners an opportunity to assess and develop their business disaster and recovery plans. ILO facilitator Vanessa Fowler is pleased with Grenada's readiness in the event of a disaster.
Participants also acknowledge that post-Hurricane Ivan, they saw a lot of progress in terms of the preparedness of the government to respond. Obviously, through the previous hurricanes, lessons were learned, better strategies were put in place, better plans were devised, so the country is better prepared to deal with any sort of a disaster going forward.
Senior Information Officer at NADMA, Ruth Roberts, is happy that the workshop was held at a time when NADMA is educating the public on disaster preparedness for the 2017 hurricane season.
It's a very timely workshop because it offers employers an opportunity to be exposed to business continuity plans that basically highlights what would you do, let's say for instance, example, a hazard adversely affect us. It turns into a disaster. What are some of the things you do during, before and after? And also, how do you get your business back up and running in the quickest possible time? And for us at the National Disaster Management Agency, it's part of our preparation process because we want to be able to reach every sector of the community with information.
Marketing manager at Country Coastal Limited and participant Josephine Walters spoke of a company's disaster plan.
I think we have a plan in place, a disaster management plan. It is, in most cases, it is just a matter of refreshing the different people we've delegated responsibility to. In the cases where we need to change that person, maybe they're no longer in the organization, to revisit the plan in keeping with some of the new things that would have been put forward, or maybe they're not new, but we have not had them as part of the plan. So revisit it and do a more comprehensive plan as a result. But generally, there is a plan. And coming after Hurricane Ivan, I believe most people would have a plan.
For the National Report, I am Rikisha St. Louis.
And That's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson Cornwall.